Kunga Lekpa. Kunga Lekpa Tibetan. Kundiji Legs P. Wylie. Kundiji Legs Pa 1433–1483 was a king of central Tibet who ruled from 1448 to 1481. He belonged to the Phagmodrupa Dynasty, which was the leading political regime in central Tibet from 1354 to 1435 and retained a certain political status until the early 17th century. His time saw the further fragmentation of Tibetan politics. Early years. Kunga Lekpa was a son of Sangai Gyaltsen, a brother of the last effective ruler of the dynasty, Phagmodrupa Gyaltsen. His mother was Dzempalma, a lady of the important Rinpa family. During the reign of his brother Drakpa Jungni 1432–1445, the central power of the Phagmodrupa broke down, and the Rinpa Lord Norzeng d. 1466 acquired a leading position in the Tsang region, west-central Tibet. When Drakpa Jungni died in 1445, the young Kunga Lekpa was elevated to abbot of the Tsetheng monastery in 1446 and was eventually enthroned as King Gongma, the High One, in 1448 by a council of ministers. He resided in the Nedong Palace in east-central Tibet with Konchak Rinchen as his chief deputy. Conflicting Tibetan and Chinese accounts. His father Sangai Gyaltsen was still alive and resided in the Tsetheng monastery. He only died in 1457. But in the Mingxi or Chinese dynastic annals, the succession is given differently than in the Tibetan chronicles. They assert that the father Sangarji Gyaltsen Bakangbu Sangai Gyaltsen Palzangpo succeeded Drakpa Jungni and ruled in his own name until 1469. After the latter's death, the Chenghua emperor would have ordered his son Gongzhizabo Zhangnai Lingjin Gyaltsen Bear Kangbu, Kunga Lekpa Jungni Rinchen Gyaltsen Palzangpo to accede to the throne. The historiographical discrepancy is not easily explained and seems to point to the limited Chinese insights in Tibetan affairs. At any rate, the princely title Wang conferred by the Chenghua emperor was valued enough by the Tibetan elite to merit a mention in the local chronicles. Trouble with the Rinpa. Kunga Lekpa made a tour in Tsang, where his Rinpa kinsman Norzeng received him in state. However, the king felt dissatisfied with the treatment accorded him. He was married to the Rinpa lady Chopal Zangmo, his cousin, but the marriage was unhappy and caused serious political repercussions. To this was added religiously tainted disputes. Norzeng's grandson Danio Dorje 1463–1512 was a supporter of the Karmapa sect and insisted on building a monastery outside Lhasa, thus within the orbit of Phagmodru authority. However, hostile Gelugpa monks raised the new establishment and almost killed the Karmapa Lama Chadrak Gyatso. Finally, in 1480, Danio Dorje invaded the region and captured some districts which had hitherto been under Phagmodrupa's control. He also forced the deputy Konchak Rinchen from power. A renewed attack in the next year was unsuccessful, but by now Kunga Lekpa had lost much of his allegiance among the Tibetan elite. The ministers of the kingdom met in the same year 1481 in Nedong to discuss the conflict between the Gongma's faction and the Rinpa. In the end, Kunga Lekpa was deposed and received an estate as compensation. The throne went to his nephew Ngagi Wangpo. 2 years after this, the old ruler died. He had a son called Rinchen Dorje 1458–1476, who became abbot of Tsetheng in 1467, but died at a young age. He is sometimes listed as ruler after Kunga Lekpa, which appears to be incorrect.